Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Howie Haynes Show, Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Where do you begin? Where do you begin after the inauguration on Monday? The executive orders, the progress yesterday. It's an incredible week. It's only Wednesday. It feels like it's been 10 days. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with something for some reason, is hitting a little closer to home due to my upbringing, where I was raised, the generation I'm in, and my age. So let me lay some groundwork for what I'm going to do here. Let me first of all just make sure we're sharing. We got everything going. Okay. Okay. So Marco Rubio is someone that I feel like I grew up with. So I wasn't sure exactly his age. He was sworn in yesterday by Vice President Vance to be Secretary of State, our 72nd Secretary of State. And Marco Rubio, the reason it's significant, I looked doing some research this morning, and apparently he's about a year older than me, almost very close to a year. And I remember Rubio. I remember him coming onto the scene. I remember Rush Limbaugh talking about Rubio, and Rubio was this energetic, wide-eyed, incredibly articulate conservative, a Reagan conservative. And I think that's what I want to lay the foundation today is the role of Ronald Reagan. We're not hearing much about him right now, but we did see something at the inauguration, which was really interesting. Trump basically was demolishing not just Biden, but basically every president that was sitting to his left. And so you have Bush and Clinton and Obama, and of course Carter, God rest his soul, and Biden. And I think, and Bush too is of course deceased as well. But everybody after Reagan has been part. Really, I think we have to look at this historically. Part of what we've been just been rescued from. We've been rescued from a tremendous force that increased the size of Washington and the power of Washington. And that with that power, less rights to the states, less rights to the individual, the fear of the founding fathers. And Trump comes in 2016 trying to confront that. He does in many ways, and of course is just pummeled for it. Okay. And then, of course, spends the last 4 years making him, in my argument, I think objectively, I don't understand how anybody could not see him as the most prepared president to begin on day one. Because how many presidents have 4 years to contemplate, to meditate, to strategize, to reflect, and to plan another term? It's amazing. So he goes in, he's an incredible speech, executive orders, and it's when I saw Marco Rubio didn't get a lot of attention yesterday. A lot of other things that Trump is doing is getting more attention. And I want to pull back and talk about Rubio. And more than Rubio and more than the president, Trump, it's the presidency and it's the office of Secretary of State and the significance. I mean, Secretary of State is just it's a monumental position. It's he's the highest member of the cabinet after the vice president, and then the most important member is the Secretary of State. And let's look at also, just to get a little historical grounding, doing some research today. And if we look at the Secretary of State, if we go to the U.S. Department of State website directly, and just look at the duties of the Secretary of State, and if you look at it's two sentences, the opening paragraphs, two sentences, and let's look at the words. Duties of the Secretary of State. Under the Constitution, okay, the President of the United States determines U.S. foreign policy. It's an amazing reminder. The President, one person, okay, of the United States determines U.S. foreign policy. The Secretary of State, appointed by the President with the advice and consent of the Senate, is the President's chief foreign affairs advisor. He doesn't just implement, he advises the president. And the president determines the U.S. foreign policy. So the power of the executive office when it comes to foreign affairs is tremendous. Okay? Of course, he can't declare war, Congress must. But the president determines U.S. foreign policy. The Secretary of State is his chief advisor. Okay. The Secretary of State carries out the president's foreign policies through the State Department and the Foreign Service of the United States. So, chief advisor, president sets the foreign policy, Secretary of State is his chief advisor, and he carries it out through the State Department and the Foreign Service. So, let's see, created in 1789 by Congress as a successor to the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Department of State is the senior executive department of the U.S. government. The Secretary of State's duties relating to foreign affairs have not changed significantly since then, but have become far more complex as international commitments multiplied. These duties, the activities and responsibilities of the State Department include the following. There's a whole list, but they conduct negotiations concerning foreign affairs. They serve as the president's principal advisor. They grant and issue passports to American citizens. They advise the president on appointments of U.S. ambassadors, ministers, consuls, diplomatic representatives. It goes on and on. It's an incredibly important role. And let's look at the list of U.S. Department of State. He's the 72nd. So secretaries of state, look at this. I'm going to look at the top 10 here. The first 10. Number 1, Thomas Jefferson. Number 4, John Marshall, who became the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the famous Chief Justice. James Monroe, President, right? James Madison, President. John Quincy Adams, the son of John Adams, President. All right, we have, and it goes on and on. Daniel Webster, Martin Van Buren, James Buchanan, Daniel Webster. Let's see, who else? Of course, in recent time, we have people like, let's go into the modern time. We have Henry Kissinger, okay, Muskie, Alexander Haig, George Shultz, James Baker, all right, Warren Christopher, Madeleine Albright, of course, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, Rex Tillerson, Pompeo, and of course, under Biden, Blinken. Okay, so 72nd by Rubio is one of the most important posts in the administration, therefore the world. President sets the foreign policy. Secretary of State is his chief advisor, and he's the primary force of implementing those policies. All right, Rubio himself. What I think I should do is let me play the video of Rubio, and I think we'll stop. We'll go through the video. We'll look at the language. We'll look at the body language. We'll look at what's going on. So Vance is going to do this. This was yesterday, January 21st, 2025. Vice President J.D. Vance swears in Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. And this is going to be, I'm going to share the video from Forbes Breaking News on YouTube. So let me share that with you. Okay. Share. Breaking news. Share. Okay. And make it full screen. All right. And let's make sure everybody's got it. All right, we're good. All right. Getting this, huh? Okay, so this is Vice President J.D. Vance swearing in Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. I think I'll just let it play through. Well, it's 8 minutes. No, I'll stop it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll break it down. I think there's a lot here to look at, and then we'll bounce back and forth and take a look at some stuff. Okay, here we go. So this is they're going to come in together.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? I want to give a special welcome to Senator Rubio's family, especially his 4 beautiful kids and his wife. Thank you guys for being here. It's a great occasion. I will say that it's pretty hard to top being sworn in as vice president, and then the Buckeyes win the national championship the very same day. But this is a hell of a start to a run, because Marco is one of my favorite people in Washington. And you know, he's a son of Cuban immigrants to this country. He grew up in very humble beginnings, but he has an incredibly deep love of our nation. He is a bipartisan solutions seeker, a guy who can actually get things done, but a conservative of great principle and great vision. And I think more than almost any party that I've met in Washington the last few years, Senator Rubio, I think, understands the distinctive priorities of President Trump and why it represents such a significant and frankly important and needed departure from a generation of failed foreign policy. Senator Rubio will be the chief diplomat of the United States of America, but he will remain a friend. I'm proud to know him, and I'm proud to do this. So
All right. So let me just interrupt a second. So we have Vice President J.D. Vance, who, let's also just look at him for a second. He's 40 years old. Okay. I like about this, as soon as I started watching this morning, I could notice that Vance is nervous. This is extremely competent man, extremely articulate, one of the most articulate politicians, and I don't say that in a derogatory, servants of the public, is J.D. Vance in a long time. Extremely articulate, but he's nervous, and I think it's great. I think some degree of nerves and shows humility. This is a monumental. Put yourself in the shoes of these participants. This is the United States of America, right? The strongest nation, the most influential nation in currently, and arguably ever in the face of its tentacles just reach around the entire globe and into outer space now. So you have this degree of, I love it. He's never been vice president. He was sworn in yesterday. He's never sworn in somebody else as he's going about the secretary. Here he is, a 40-year-old man, vice president, going to swear in somebody to be secretary of state. So I think it's always interesting to look at the context and take a breath and not forget they're human beings, right? We always looking at them from a distance and just guys getting up this morning like everyone else, right? And Rubio, his posture shows the humility. His wife looks nervous, and appropriately so. If you're standing there thinking, I got this all, well, you know what? You probably don't have the humility to take on this role, because you need a degree of humility. You need confidence, and you need the command of the material, if you will. Rubio has that, and so does Vance. But I appreciate it. So I'm going to look. He did mention his humble beginnings, So if you're not familiar with Rubio, he's a first-generation American. His parents are both from Cuba, born in Cuba. They came over in 1956. All right. I think they came to Miami. They lived in a short time in Utah. They came back to Florida, and Marco was born in Miami and raised, a little time in Utah, and then raised in Miami. They're a Catholic family. We'll talk about Miami and in a little while about what's significant about Miami, what's significant about Cubans. Of course, Cubans are considered Hispanic because of the tie to the Spanish language. Latin Americans, because of Latin, the Romance language of Latin and French and Portuguese, and they speak. So, but Cubans also have the great majority of Cubans have their heritage tied back to Spain, to actual Spain. So, there's a degree of Catholicism in Cuba and a degree of conservatism in Cuba. That is for Cuban refugees that came to the United States and primarily to Florida and Miami, particularly, and before they moved out. That is important to remember. And so their lineage is one that was open to Reagan. When Reagan comes about, so 1980 to 88 was Reagan. I was born in the 70s, like Marco, and we really grew up in the 80s under the impression of Reagan. And so all those presidents to the left of Trump the other night, and the ones who were deceased, everybody after Reagan really was this whether they're good people, whether they had good intentions or not, they really were part of the problem that we're in now. The expansion of government, the role of government in our daily life, the force of the government to manipulate and control that led to this giant monster. Of course, Bush 1 and Bush 2 were less so than Biden and Obama. Okay. And Clinton, maybe, compared to Obama wasn't nearly as bad, but, but even Bush, they expanded the government, so Reagan was really somebody who stood out in terms of conservatism in the truest sense. Okay. Conservatism, trying to return to the principles of a strong military and constitutional roots and putting in great justices on the Supreme Court. So that's a little groundwork, right? And Rubio's got 4 kids. He's been married over, I think, 1998, 88, 98. He was married, so it's over 25 years. That's all. Why we're doing it. Why don't we talk about also? He was elected to the House of Representatives of Florida House of Representatives. He became Speaker of the House, Florida House of Representatives. Then he ran for senator. I believe it was 2011. It was a 3-man race. He won that race. That was the time when we began to know him. I really specifically remember Rush Limbaugh being very impressed, and we all were. His ability to speak and articulate conservatism in the Reagan line. That's why I keep pointing this out about. Excuse me, let me take a sip of my coffee. Why I keep pointing out Reagan, because Rubio, to understand my generation or this age group here, early 50s, you really need to understand the role of Reagan. And if you're younger, it doesn't mean as much. And if you're older, well, then of course it goes back to even Kennedy, right? This generation from Kennedy forward. But Reagan, to be born a Reagan conservative, and I remember Reagan being shot. I remember clear as day. So I guess I was, 8, 9 years old. I remember coming home and seeing the news. Of course, no internet at the time, and Reagan being shot. I remember even Reagan making a joke as he was going into the operator. And Reagan was a lot closer to dying than people thought. And I remember these things. I remember they had it said on the news that Reagan asked the surgeon or the doctor who was about to perform surgery on him if he was a Republican. Reagan always had a great sense of humor. So this was, and of course, the Soviet Union is still intact. Margaret Thatcher, right, in England. So you have this groundwork. The Berlin Wall is up. Okay, this is what people like Rubio are raised in. And his parents coming from Cuba. Cubans, in a particular way, understand the threat of a totalitarian government because they lived under it. They love America. They love the entrepreneurial spirit, and they love freedom. And and hand in hand with that, it usually goes with a great gratitude and love of America. All right, so here comes the swearing in, and we'll take a good look at it and look at the words. Maybe I'll let the swearing in take place, and then we'll go back and look at the words of the swearing in. Okay, here we go.
Senator Rubio, thank you. I also, of course, want to thank President Trump for nominating Senator Rubio and giving me a first easy swearing in. This is the first time I've ever sworn in an official in the United States government. And I want to thank Senator Jim Risch and his family for making this easy. You guys got this done and got it done very quickly. 99-0, right? I think even I wouldn't have got close to 99-0.
That's important note, right? First one to be confirmed, 99-0. One abstained, and 90. I mean, that's respect. He's well liked. It also shows that at the end of the day, our chief diplomat should be supported by everybody. He's going out to represent all of us around the world, and it's important to have that consensus. But 99-0 is a sign that Rubio has been around a long time. He's respected. There was even a time where Rubio, I think, was being sucked into the machine. Okay, and that's when he ran for president. I didn't finish out his tenure, right? He was elected the Senate 2011. He 2015, he decides to run for president. He's not going to seek re-election for the Senate. He has to bow out because Trump is running ahead. Okay, at that time, that's when Rubio, it was the first time in my life I remember Rubio thinking, is Rubio becoming one of these Washington Republicans who's just being massaged by the machine and losing his essence? I remember thinking that, and I think there was something to that. He pulls out of the race. He jumps back into the race for Senate for his own seat. He wins his Senate seat. He endorses Trump. And since then, I think like many people have seen the light with Trump. And, he in a sense, he was technically a supporter the whole time, but it wasn't, from what I remember, my impression, it wasn't this really strong endorsement. He endorsed him, but it was there was always kind of a caution with Trump with many people, and that's why like somebody like Peter Thiel is important. Peter Thiel, the tech investor, because they were so early, some people, and they were really early, and they got it. They saw who Trump was early on, and they saw it. Well, Rubio, and I don't hold this against Rubio or anybody, because it's life, and you're living life in a certain way. You're in a certain situation, and sometimes things are suspect, and you don't know who they are, and and it seems so foreign, and there's so much negative press that it's hard to buy in fully. So Rubio does. He sees the light. He goes fully with Trump. Um, he's on the trail with Trump. It's early talk that he would be the Secretary of State, and so he is. So here we go.
So Senator Rubio, it's a great testament to your career of service, and this is a new chapter, man. But I think you're going to do great. So great. So I think that we're going to administer the oath, and then Senator, you'll say a few words. Is that right? Let's do it. Okay. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Marco Rubio,
I, Marco Rubio,
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help you God. Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
All right. Beautiful, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but just watching that makes me tear up a little bit, because I think like it's moving. We have a great nation, and these are great positions, and these are just human beings put in these positions. And the reminder today, I think the theme of today is to remember that we're all just fellow humans on this journey, and some get put into elevated positions, and when they go in with a degree of humility and acknowledging that, I think it's very powerful. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and look at the actual swearing in and the words, and let's stop and look at what is actually said here. Let me see here.
I, Marco Rubio.
Okay, hold on. Go back a little bit right here. Okay, here we go.
So
I'm going to stop.
please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Marco.
Raise your right hand, right? Like an oath, like in court, and put the hand on the Bible. Okay?
Rubio.
I, Marco Rubio,
Do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States.
Right? Do solemnly swear. Right? An oath, right? In this day and age, you do oath. Remember what an oath, what your word meant, right? In the Greco-Roman tradition, like you died for you. If you gave your word, you'd be willing to die for it. The swearing in, right? To defend the Constitution of the United States, to believe, not in the same way as we believe in God, but to believe and have faith in a document that you believe is consistent with God's will for human beings, which maximizes human freedom and the spirit to be an individual, in order to the reason where we always promote individuality is because that's what makes the best community. And the best community produces the best individuals. It's a yin and yang. It goes together. Okay, it's always about humans as a whole, but we can never. It's when we err on one side or the other. If it's only about human freedom, only the individual, well, then it's anarchy. If it's only about the community, then it's a totalitarian, socialistic, communistic, godless machine that loses all the individuality and the beauty of the person, the individual person. So that's where you're swearing, you're believing in to defend this document, this beautifully, I believe, divinely inspired document called the U.S. Constitution. Okay, and written by a group of men who were inspired. I'm reading a fantastic book about the radical nature of the founding of our nation. It wasn't so radical in the violent sense. A lot of revolutions are very physically. Of course, we had a war. It was very violent. But it was more an intellectual revolution. People began to the fathers of the movement began to say, like, and their wives were very important. Maybe not acknowledged, maybe not official roles, but the women behind the men of this nation were always involved. You see that with John and Abigail Adams, particularly. So these ideas they took and they put together, and they created this document. And what's so beautiful about that is it's very concise. It reminds me of the great monastic movements. The monastic movements that lasted are the ones that weren't overburdensome. And the Constitution isn't overburdensome. It focused on what the federal government can do, right? And everything else is left to the states and the individuals to decide. So let's continue with the swearing in.
Against all enemies,
Against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
Defended against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Right? He takes this freely. Without any mental, he's not in the back of his mind saying, I'm not sure about this. And he's not being forced into it by some devious mechanism.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
The duties of the office which I'm about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
By the way, so help me God. That's part of the swearing in. So help me God. One nation under God. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. One nation under God. Okay? Now listen to Rubio's words. I think, bravo. I'm happy for Marco. I'm happy. I'm happy for one of my generation here. I really feel solidarity with Marco. Of course, he's from Miami. I'm from New York. He's Cuban. I'm not Cuban. Okay. And that's the point. We were raised under a belief system that was pushed forward by the great man, Ronald Reagan. And of course, others before him, William F. Buckley, intellectuals, and Milton Friedman. In fact, I have a Reagan clip for you that's fantastic. And if you've been listening to our clips of Friedman, you'll see where Reagan got it. So we're always standing on the shoulders of someone else. And let's hear what Rubio has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for making time. It's been a busy 72 hours. Yeah, maybe longer, but 96 hours, I guess. But first, I want to thank Jeanette, my wife, who has been so supportive. As the Vice President knows well, it's impossible to do any of these jobs we do here, including the Senate, but now in this new role, without the support of our family and particularly of our spouses. And so thank you for being supportive every step of the way. I would not stand here before you today without that. I'm also...
I just love, you could say, well, what else is he going to do? No, you don't have to lead with that, but he's leading with the acknowledgement of his spouse and his wife. And I think it's so, we can never get tired of that. I know there's a lot of men in this audience. And if you're a woman in this audience, I mean, you understand that as well from watching your parents or watching your married children or your own marriage or whatever, the marriage of your neighbors. It's hard. Okay. Marriage is not an easy task. It's one of the greatest blessings we can be involved in. But when people are working hard, and no matter what it is, whether it's a celebrated position or not, we know that very few people are elevated to the position they end up in or achieve if they're married, without the spouse being a big part of that. So to acknowledge that, like I just said, the founding fathers, and of course the founding wives. Okay. So right away to acknowledge that, I think, again, it shows where his heart is. You can see by his posture and facial expressions that this is a humble moment, and an appropriately humble moment.
Thrilled and grateful that all four of my children are here. They're the most important legacy any of us will leave behind. The most important job I'll ever have is that of a father and a husband. And I'm honored that they were able to join us. Amanda, my oldest, Daniela, my second, Anthony, our third, and then Dominic. I'm very happy they're able to see this today. I also want to thank my colleagues, Senator Risch and Ms. Risch, for joining us. He did a great job managing the committee, which brought us here to this point, but he's also been one of my closest friends in my time in the U.S. Senate. In fact, by reason of chance, certainly not by design, we wound up basically being first and second behind one another on seniority in every committee. So we even sat next to each other on the floor. So people thought it was a plot. It was not by design, and but it's one of the most special relationships I've established. And obviously, it's an honor to be with the vice president, who I think is going to be phenomenal. It's someone I knew and admired and actually relied on for policy ideas before he was even elected to the Senate. And now will do an extraordinary job and for the president. I can't think of a better voice for the world and for the president's policies.
I want to stop right there. The facial expressions on Vance, I think, are really, in a sense, beautiful, and his wife. The three of them are in a humbled moment. I think it's really. I don't care if you think I'm wasting time or not. It's important. This show emphasizes these moments because our culture is nothing without men and women of integrity and sincerity and open hearts, wounded hearts. Right? And redemption and reconciliation and moving on and betterment and growth mindset, all this, it all starts with a pure good heart. And I think when he just complimented Vance, you can see on Vance's face. In fact, I'm gonna play it back 10 seconds and watch Vance's face. When he compliments, Vance is smiling. And when he compliments, it's almost as if Vance is going to tear up. They're feeling the weight of the responsibility, the weight of the office that they're entering.
On for policy ideas before he was even elected to the Senate, and now will do an extraordinary job for the president. I can't think of a better voice for the world and for the president's policies. As far as the task ahead,
we remember Vance's mom, right? I believe she's clean now, but she was an addict, right? I believe heroin or opioid, or I'm not sure exactly what the drug was, but a drug addict, addicted to drugs. And he was raised in that environment. And, it's great. His book and the movie made by the book, directed by Ron Howard. It's a good movie. The book is better. And there he is, 40 years old, swearing in the Secretary of State, hearing kind words, and then the look on his face, you can see that the weight. There's a lot of weight. We need to pray for these men and their women and their children and their parents. We need to pray for our nation. Continue to pray. If you believe that prayer had any part in this reconciliation or this return or this redemption moment for our nation, well, then we got to keep praying. Pray for Vance. Pray for Rubio. Pray for Trump. Pray for the entire cabinet. Pray for Mike Johnson. Pray for the Senate. Pray. And of course, pray for the Democrats too. And do your job. To continue do our job, which is to support them. We have to support them, point out the good moments, correct them when they need to be corrected, do it with as much kindness as we can. But I just dealt with something personally in my life just this week, and it's just a thing in my life with somebody that acted in a way that wasn't appropriate toward me and my family. And it wasn't just a monumental thing, but it just was something that needed to be corrected. And it was corrected yesterday with a good conversation. And the point of the conversation isn't to make people feel better. It's to reconcile the situation. So that's how we correct. We correct by speaking the truth with compassion and kindness. If we can do it and feel better at the same time, in the sense of, making the person feel better. That's right. But reconciliation and peace and forgiveness isn't about making the person feeling better. Correction isn't about making them feel better. It's about the truth in a compassionate, kind way being put first and foremost, the communication laid out, and the ground laid for growth, which will make them feel better. It will make you feel better, make us feel better. It's not about the emotional feeling of, oh, we're not mad at each other anymore. No. Sometimes reconciliation hurts more than the injury. But it's a different type of hurt. It's a growth hurt. It's a sacrificial hurt. It's a crucifixion hurt that leads to redemption and power and grace. Okay? So that's what we need, how we need to treat our politicians, with grace. And grace isn't always, I want to make this person feel better. And we know it as parents with our kids. It's not always about making the child feel better. It's what's best for the child. And if it's best for the child to stop eating that entire bag of chocolate, well, then you got to take the chocolate. And if they don't get it, well, they don't get it. They'll get it later. Okay?
President Trump was elected to keep promises, and he's going to keep those promises. And his primary promise when it comes to foreign policy is that the priority of the United States Department of State will be the United States. It will be.
Here we go. We're getting the heart of the matter, right? Trump, here we go. Boom. Now we're into the substance. President Trump was elected to keep promises. And the primary promise as far as foreign affairs is to put the American interest first.
Be furthering the national interest of this country. And he's given us a very clear mandate. President Trump's made it very clear, everything we do, and this is true in government, but especially at the Department of State, everything we do must be justified by the answer to one of three questions. Does it make us stronger?
I get paid $5,000 per book to publish books for other people.
I got a bad ad.
It takes me only one.
All right, we're back.
Does it make us safer? And does it make us more prosperous? If it doesn't do one of those three things, we will not do it. And so that is the goal, and that is the task, and that is the promise that he was elected to keep. And
let's go back and review that promise, because I think this is what we're here for, right? We're here to hear President Trump was elected to keep his promises. And as foreign affairs, this is his promise. Ready? Here we go. Let's look at each one.
True in government, but especially at the Department of State. Everything we do must be justified by the answer to one of three questions.
Everything we do in terms of foreign affairs, everything in government he's saying, but particularly with foreign affairs, must be justified by one of three points. Here we go. Point number one.
Does it make us stronger?
Does it make us stronger? Does it make the United States of America stronger? Yes or no? Not Canada, not Mexico, not the United Nations, not France, not China, no. Does it make the United States of America stronger? Yes or no? Second.
Does it make us safer?
Does it make us safer? Again, not Mexico, not Canada, not United. Does it make the United States of America safer? If it makes somebody else safer, which of course, if we're safer, somebody else is always safer, because you can't be as dominant as the United States of America is and in the position it is without anything that benefits the United States will benefit others. Okay, in terms of economy, in terms of safety, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of world health, pandemic, all these things. Everything that helps improve us is going to improve the situation for others. So does it make us stronger? Okay. And the third one?
And does it make us more prosperous?
Does it make us more prosperous? Right? Like Trump's arguing with Canada and Mexico and the EU and NATO. We can't just be giving and giving and giving and giving. We have to receive something in return. Tariffs, and we can't just buy all China's stuff without a reciprocal fair trade. Okay, these are policies, a lot of details to be worked out. Okay, but are we safer? Are we stronger? Are we more prosperous?
If it doesn't do one of those three things, we will not do it. And so that is the goal, and that is the task, and that is the promise that he was elected to keep, and that is the promise he will keep, and we will help him keep. It's a transformational moment. The United States, I think, is now, as President Trump pointed out last night, and I believe deeply, we are headed into a new era that I think will make the world a safer place. We have a president who yesterday, President Trump made clear in his inaugural speech that one of the primary goals of American foreign policies is the promotion of peace. Of course, peace through strength, peace and always without abandoning our values. But I think it's extraordinary that it's something that needs to be said and hasn't been said enough in recent memory. And we look forward to being.
It's a great point. Peace. The goal is peace. Okay? We want peace. We want peace in Ukraine. We want peace in the Middle East. We want peace at our borders. We want peace. All right? I mean, it's crazy. Like he's saying, it's crazy that it has to be restated. But, I mean, that's really what we're looking for, okay? We get so tangled up in all the minutia of everything that we forget the overall goal is a peaceful world where you can raise your children to have better lives than you had.
A key part of helping the president achieve his agenda that he has a clear mandate to keep. If I may take the liberty for just 15 seconds to say something in Spanish, because I know a lot of people back home would be.
I love this part. All right. So he wants to take a few moments to say something in Spanish. And I don't know why it makes me emotional. I'm getting old, I think. I'm getting soft in my old age. But it's a great acknowledgement. If you don't know, I was listening in the car the other day, and it was on the radio, and the Sirius, and it was Pitbull, the Pitbull channel, right? The singer, the rapper, right? I don't know why that was on, but anyway. And he said, he comes in with this little thing. He says, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where to go. And and that's true here, right? you have to remember your roots. You have to remember where you come from. That's why I in my life I try to do that. I try to reestablish where I'm coming from, where I am, and where I'm going, where we're going as a family, where we're going as a community, where we're going as a nation. And he's gonna acknowledge right now what he came from. Here we go.
Very proud, and I want to make sure I acknowledge that. Quiero darle las gracias a Dios, a mi familia que no está aquí con nosotros hoy, a mis padres que vinieron en este país en el año 1956. Y el propósito de su vida fue que nosotros pudiéramos vivir los sueños que no fueron posibles para ellos. Es un honor increíble ser el secretario de Estado del país más poderoso y más bueno en la historia de toda la humanidad. Y es un gran honor y le doy las gracias al presidente Trump por esta oportunidad. I just said I saved a bunch of money by switching to Geico. That's what I said.
That's pretty funny. Saved a lot of money by switching to Geico. Okay, see, because we're the Howie Haynes show, you know what I have? I have the translation here. Okay, and basically what he said is the following. I think it's fantastic. Let me see. He spoke briefly in Spanish, and here's the translation here. Okay, let me get it. Hold on, I'm coming. He said, this is what he said in Spanish. This is the translation. This is from Cyber Cuba website. He said, quote, this is what he said in Spanish. I want to thank God, my family who is not here with us. Right? Tad hip, right? He's a tad hip to his relatives. Tad hip to those who've gone before, who made the hard journey, who lost all they had in Cuba. Right? Hat tip to the generations before us. My parents who came to this country in 1956. Remember, between like 53 and 59 was that great. I think there was that 5-6 year period, right? He's right in the middle, 1956, right? And Batista was still in power, and Castro comes into power in 59. And of course, that was that was the deal changer. Okay. So a lot of people left, and who came to this country in 1956, I'm continuing with his words, with the purpose that we live the dreams that were not possible for them. I want to cry about this. This is fantastic. Hey, here's a sentence. I want to thank God. And he's saying it in his language, the language of his family. I want to thank God, my family who is not here with us, my parents who came to this country in 1956 with the purpose that we live the dreams that were not possible for them, Rubio said. And then he added this. It is an incredible honor to be the Secretary of State of the most powerful and the greatest country in the history of all humanity. It is a great honor, and I thank President Trump for this opportunity, he added. It's great. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful appointment. It's a beautiful nod to his family. The greatest country in the history of all humanity. It is a great honor, and I thank President Trump for this opportunity. The most powerful and greatest country in the history of all humanity. Incredible honor. Look at the words, the phrases that he's using. It's great. This is what we need. All right? All right, let me play the rest and move on.
And I want to end by thanking Almighty God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That is truly the singular purpose of our lives. It's the most important priority. It's the only thing that will matter when we take our last breath on this earth. But this is an extraordinary opportunity that would not have been possible without God's blessings. I'm honored and I'm privileged, cognizant of responsibility. And I want to thank President Trump for his confidence. We will work hard every second of the day to help him achieve the agenda the American people have given him to achieve. Thank you. Thanks for being a part of this today. God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. So the most important acknowledgement, God, and for him, his Savior, Jesus Christ, and my Savior, Jesus Christ. So without God, and the only thing that matters when we take our last breath, I'm paraphrasing, right, is our relationship with him. And that without his blessings, none of this would be possible. And that he's cognizant, he's aware, he's humbled, he's ready to work. It's great. It's a great day. It's a great day. So God bless Marco Rubio. Let me stop sharing and look forward to a great relationship between him and Vance and Trump. All right. I do want to talk. You know what? I also, before we move on from Rubio, I want to also acknowledge like the Cuban Americans, this generation. And by the way, Just, it's not a coincidence. I don't think, that Miami Miami is one of the top 50, say top 50 cities in the United States in terms of population. And I think only 9 have Republican mayors. Okay. So the great majority are run by Democrats. It's unusual to have a big urban center run by a Republican. And Mayor Francis Suarez is the mayor of Miami. And it's important for people to realize he was first elected with a mandate he's a Republican, 86%. And he was reelected with a mandate of nearly 79%. So a Republican mayor in Miami, majority of Miami is still from a Cuban descent. Cubans are strongly Catholic tradition. I think it's the Catholic Church estimates that 60% of Cubans are Catholics. So you have this and of course, Florida used to be a swing state, but then with DeSantis, it's has become such a strong Republican conservative state. So that's important to recognize our terrain, our geography. That's Mayor Francis Suarez, Republican of a major city, elected with a tremendous 86%, and then reelected with 79% of the vote. Crazy number, right? All right. So, and by the way, I pulled up some facts from Pew Research Center. This is from 2020, and that 58% of Cubans lean are Republicans or lean Republican. So it is an interesting block of the Hispanic and Latin American group that is on the conservative side, and like I said, a lot of Cubans identify with their heritage of Spain, coming from the country of Spain. And so there it is. We'll move on from that. And I think just to give us some groundwork, God bless Marco Rubio, the Cuban tradition, acknowledgement to his family, the acknowledgement that there is a section of Hispanic and Latin American voter, the Cuban vote that recognizes this, and probably a lot of it because of the Spanish heritage, and also coming from Cuba and seeing what a dictator is like to live under that, recognizing the dream, and coming here, working hard, and raising children. And it's also a nod to immigrants. Okay, and if someone is a asylum seeker, when they were leaving Cuba, they were asylum seekers. It wasn't just an opportunity. Okay. They came here to seek the opportunity. They couldn't, but it's not just, hey, anybody can come at any time. Okay. So this is all balanced out. Asylum seekers always has to be room for asylum seekers, but they also have to come through the proper channels and do the proper paperwork. But his parents, his father was a bartender. His mother was a housekeeper in hotels, humble beginnings. It's a great story. It's a great story. All right. I think what I'm going to do next, I want to talk about Donald Trump and some of his executive orders. I think the most important executive order that we can talk about is the one I'm going to show you right now. So let me share this. All right. So he had a whole list of executive orders, but I think one of the biggest factors of his election, now it's hard to say which is the most important, but I think the transgender issue and the men going into women's restrooms, the locker rooms, and being in women's sports was such a huge factor. A huge factor. I just saw a guy at the gym the other day, and he's 5 of my friends were for Trump, 5 of my friends were for Biden, but the transgender thing, it just got all 10 went to Biden, went to Trump. People had enough. It was weird. It's just too weird. It's too weird and too strange. Eliminating the idea that there's two biological sex it's crazy. Okay, so Trump's executive order acknowledging that, I think, is a monumental day, and the writing, the way they worded the executive order is quite brilliant and poetic and beautiful. A beautiful reestablishment of God made them men and women. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play Trump quick. Here's Trump making this is during his inauguration speech where he says this. It's only 16 seconds. So let's listen to Trump here.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female. As of today.
All right. As of today, U.S. policy. Let's see. As of
It
today,
will henceforth be the official policy of the United
Official
States
policy of the United
government that there
States
are only two genders,
that there are only two genders,
male and female.
male and female. And it got probably the loudest applause during the speech. All right. So that was huge. And that day he signed the following. So let me bring up the executive order. Okay. It's coming up. And here it is. It's really a great document. It's a great document. It's really well worded. This is where really smart people obviously been thinking this out. How do they confront this head on? And here's the executive order. And I'm going to share it with you. All right. Make sure we're sharing. Yeah, we got it. Okay. And here we go. This is from the whitehouse.gov. All right. This is the actual executive order. This is the presidential actions. Here's the title. A little picture of the White House up there. Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Executive order, January 20th, 2025. The title alone tells you their approach. This isn't it just about eliminating this false proposition that there are more than male and female. It's defending women. Remember I talked about what a role of the man is? It's defend our homes. The man opens the door and he determines who enters and leaves his house. Do I let this person into my house or do I close the door and keep them out? And if there's somebody already in my house that's unacceptable, it's my job to give them the boot and kick them out of the house. This was unacceptable to our families and to who we are as human beings, independent of your religion. This is unacceptable. There are men and there are women. So in the way that defending women from gender ideology extremism, that's the first part of the title. Defending women from gender ideology extremism. We're defending our families. We're defending the women in our lives. Second part of the title, and restoring biological truth. Restoring truth. What kind of truth? Biological truth. You remember during the pandemic and everybody's like, I believe in science, trust the science. We trust the science. It's called biology, the study of life. And the biological truth is there's men and there's women. There's XX and there's XY, period, to the federal government. All right, executive order. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Section 7301 of Title V, United States Code, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. It's really great when official documents are beautiful. Right on, right? Right on. When official document, this is when the Constitution is a beautiful living document. Not living in the sense that it's willy-nilly and changing. No, it's still alive today. The foundational principles of our constitutional republic are at work, correcting major errors and flaws, attacks against our humanity itself. This is an attack against humanity itself. And we stood up. The people stood up and put a man into office who said he would do it, and he did it. And he's using the Constitution itself to proclaim the truth, the biological truth, and to defend women. Not just women today, but women in the future. Section 1, purpose. Across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and socially coercive means to permit men to self-identify as women and gain access to intimate single-sex spaces and activities designed for women. From women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplace showers. This is wrong. Period. Look at that sentence. This is wrong. Period. Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. Amen, amen. The erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact, not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in government itself. Huh? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God flooded the earth, right? And Noah got in his boat, and then the rainbow came out. The rainbow's being redeemed right now. The real rainbow of God's covenant with men and women to go forth and reproduce and bear fruit and be fruitful and raise those children to acknowledge God. Right now, I'm reading my morning prayer. I'm reading Deuteronomy, and it's the part where Moses doesn't get to enter the promised land with his people, and Joshua is going to lead them there. And Moses tells the people what to believe in. Never forget your Creator. Never forget what God has done for you. We forgot, or part of this world forgot, and now it's being restored. And the floods are going away, and the door of the ark is opening, and people can walk out again and see truth. Two animals of each, two types, two animals for each animal, right? 2 horses, 2 cows, onto Noah's ship. Why? Male and female to reproduce. Noah's Ark, the rainbow, that's truth. Men and women, male and female, biological truth, protection, the man protects. I don't care if I'm being redundant. This is fundamental and where we need to be. And it's beautiful. This unhealthy road is paved by an ongoing and purposeful attack against the ordinary and long-standing use and understanding of biological and scientific terms, replacing the immutable biological reality of sex with an internal, fluid, and subjective sense of self unmoored from biological facts. You see, when truth uses clear, crisp words, deceit uses shadows and ambiguity. It's exactly what you see here. Go ahead, Eve, eat the apple. Eat the apple. You can be like God. You can create. No, God's the creator. God created that man and woman. That's it. Invalidating the true and biological category of woman improperly transforms laws and policies designed to protect sex-based opportunities into laws and policies that undermine them, replacing long-standing cherished legal rights and values with an identity-based inchoate social concept. This part's important too. Our policies, our laws, things are written based on the law and particular laws and norms and statutes, legislation, what a woman is and what a man is. And this is all, it mucks it all up. Accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. Hallelujah. 2, policy and definitions. It is the policy of the United States to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and inconvertible reality. Under my direction, the executive branch will enforce all sex protective laws to promote this reality, and the following definitions shall govern all executive interpretation of and application of federal law and administration policy. A, sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. In other words, if you get a sex change, you're still what you were born as, what you were conceived as. You're conceived in the womb of a woman, and you're either male or female at that biological moment of conception. And that's what you stay, whether you get things cut off or added, whatever. Change, whatever happens, you're still a male or a female from that moment of conception. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity. Sex is sex, male or female. B, women or woman and girls or girl shall mean adult and juvenile human females respectively. C, men or man and boys or boy shall mean adult and juvenile human males respectively. The fact that we even have to say things. D means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. Male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell, egg, sperm. Gender ideology, F, replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. Gender ideology includes the idea that there is a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one sex. Gender ideology is internally inconsistent, and that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category that nevertheless maintains that it is impossible for a person to be born in the wrong sex body. Okay? Now it's out the window, all this gender ideology. You're not born in the wrong body. G, gender identity reflects a fully internal and subjective sense of self, disconnected from a biological reality and sex and existing on an infinite continuum that does not provide a meaningful basis for identification and cannot be recognized as a replacement for sex. Okay, it goes on. And this is actually, this section 3 is interesting. Recognizing women are biologically distinct from men. A, within 30 days of date of this order, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall provide to the U.S. government, external partners, and the public clear guidance expanded on the sex-based definitions set forth in this order. So that, I mean, I guess that's, how do we verify these things, and how do we, so 30 days from now, and this is important because as we go forward with sports, and do you provide a birth certificate? Do you take an XY chromosome test? How do we do this? All right. You know what? It's really, I don't want to just keep going. I don't want to pass up because there's more. Because he's talking about also how you apply it, how you protect people in jobs. Agencies shall remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology. So get rid of all this in government agencies, in the military. Get rid of all this talk. Get rid of it. All right. Federal funds should not be used to promote gender ideology. Now I'm just grabbing little parts of it. Privacy and intimate spaces. Section 4. The Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security shall ensure that males are not detained in women's prisons or housed in women's detention centers, including through amendment as necessary. All right. The Secretary of Housing and Urban Development shall prepare and submit for notice and comment rulemaking a policy to rescind the final rule entitled Equal Access in accordance with the individual's gender identity. So now he's dismantling all the things that Biden did. All right. Talk about prisons and protecting rights. And all right. So that's it. We're going to move on. If you want to read the whole thing, you go to whitehouse.gov. Presidential actions, and this is defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. And it's a great document. It's a great document. Hallelujah. I'm happy, and it's also beautiful. Truth is beautiful. All right, next. Another. Let's stick with the executive orders. I think this one's important too. There are many, but return to in-person work. All right. Heads of all departments and agencies, it's only 2 paragraphs. Not even. 1 paragraph and one sentence. Heads of all departments and agencies in the executive branch of government shall, as soon as practicable, take all necessary steps to terminate remote work arrangements and require employees to return to work in person at their respective duty stations on a full-time basis, provided the department agency heads shall make exemptions they deem necessary. This a memorandum shall be implemented consistent with applicable law. This is important. All right. Forbes has an article about this. Okay. This is a big one because I think what Musk is talking about, by the way, Vivek Ramaswamy is no longer with Dodge. Okay, he's not going to be working with Musk because Ramaswamy is going to focus on becoming the next governor of Ohio. That's where he wants to spend his time. And I imagine he'll get a lot of support. okay, from Trump and Republicans in the Trump movement. So Ramaswamy is no longer with Dodge. I think Musk's point about, not only we have crazy stats like how few people actually working in person, how few people are actually in these. Now, I don't think there's one government building in Washington that's more than half occupied. So post-COVID, we just had this never-ending stay-home agreement and arrangement. So let's see what Forbes has to say about this. So this is a big issue. All right. So I'm sharing. No, I'm sharing. Okay. So this is Forbes. Trump ends remote work for federal employees, hoping to shrink the federal workforce. This is by Jack Kelly, senior contributor, Forbes. In one of his first actions as president of the United States, Donald Trump issued an executive order on Monday ending remote work for all federal employees, a move intended to reduce the federal workforce through attrition. Trump, let's go past this. Critical quote, requiring federal workers to come to the office 5 days a week would result in a wave of voluntary terminations that we welcome. If federal employees don't want to show up, American taxpayers shouldn't pay them for their COVID-era privilege of staying home. That's from Elon Musk, the appointed head of what's been called the Department of Government Efficiency. He wrote with his former co-lead Vivek Ramaswamy in a November op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. According to the Office of Management and Budget, about 1.1 million federal civilian employees, which is 46% of the civilian workforce, were eligible for some form of telework. Of these, roughly 228,000 workers, or 10% of the total workforce, has fully remote positions with no obligation to come into the office. So 46%, okay, were eligible for some form of telework, and 10% don't go in at all. Officials confirmed on Monday that Ramaswamy has stepped down from Dodge as he prepares to launch his campaign for Ohio governor in 2026, leaving Musk as the sole leader of the advisory group. Associated Press reported. What to watch for? The Trump administration is anticipated to implement various measures to shrink the federal workforce, with Dodge aiming to reduce regulations, cut government positions, and reorganize federal agencies. These efforts may involve significant transfer of senior officials and the relocation of entire agencies. So you remember, we talked about this. It's not enough just to make people go back to work. We have to address the consolidation of all these departments in one geographical region, Washington D.C. and the nearby areas. We need to move these areas out into other states, spread the wealth, and stop the consolidation of power and make people go to work. You got to go to work. You got to show up, and if you don't, well, then we shouldn't have to pay you. All right, I'm going to go on. It's important to stay in front. These are things that we talked about as the election came out, and they're happening already. And we need to stay, just like we need to pray, we need to stay diligent, we need to stay informed. Remember the other day I spoke about 20 factors, right? 20 factors of why we were really marching off the cliff. We were marching off the cliff. And 18 of them led to 19 and 20, which was 19. Factor number 19 is trust, or therefore loss of trust. If we lose trust in our government and our Constitution, well, then it leads to factor 20, which is despair, which leads to just an end of creativity and innovation. It leads to a one mindset, a groupthink, a re-education of those who don't agree, and of course, the terrible prospect of loss of life in terms of, like we've seen in the history of the world, where totalitarian governments or dictators, so much suppression, and it always results in loss of life, like Stalin and Mao or Hitler. Okay, and those 18 factors that lead to loss of trust and therefore despair, many of them, spending and free speech and government consolidation of power in one space. These are, we have to stay on those, and we have to stay smart, and we have to encourage, and we have to educate our fellow citizens. So I hope I can provide some service of providing you information on these topics. There's so much to weed through, and then talk to you about them, remind us of our cultural founding, celebrate people like Marco Rubio and his acknowledgement of his family and where he came from. And you see what's so beautiful about the Marco Rubio thing? This isn't about elimination of certain heritage. No, you have to acknowledge your heritage. You should acknowledge your heritage, and we all have different heritage. We can stay distinct individuals. You know, this group of people eats this type of food, and this group of people celebrate these type of holidays. Whatever it is, it's wonderful. It's great. It's diversity. Diversity is a good thing. It's a great thing. It's not the goal, though. The goal is a country and a civilization and a culture that allows the individual to pursue their dreams and become a fully evolved human being that contributes to society, right? And a byproduct of that is that we're going to have diversity because humans are different, because God made us different. We don't have to worry about diversity. Diversity will happen if we're free. If we're free, there'll be diversity. Because you're going to express yourself the way you express yourself. There's going to be diversity because people are going to come from different parts of the world legally to come here. And those parts of the world that come from are going to have different cultures. That will bring diversity. There will be, and innovation in business and technology will bring diversity because some people prefer Facebook. Some people prefer X. Some people like Twitter. There's even diversity within realms that are similar. People that are into social media. There's a lot of diversity within the social media. There's food, which is just one category. There's a lot of diversity within food. There's religions, which is one category, but there's a lot of diversity within that realm of religion. You know what? That thought today is a good one. Diversity is not something we ever have to worry about if we're free. If we're free and we're a government and a society and a culture that lives and breathes and operates and corrects and moves and does things like Trump said in that executive order with clarity and clear language, then we will have diversity. We'll have beautiful diversity, the best kind of diversity that you can have, which is diversity that continues to feed the individual freedom that leads to more diversity. It just goes on and on. It's really, it's wonderful how when things are set right, I say this to my daughter all the time. Do you want to know? I don't know. I mean, I can't say this for sure, but it's something that I've experienced. It's something that I've learned, and it's something that I share with her and I share with you. And I don't say this as if I understand for sure what God's thinking, but in my own life, sometimes I wonder, is this action from God or is it from somewhere else? And if it's from God, then I'm going that direction. And one thing I have an image is a pond, still water. When something's not from God, it's like a rock that goes into the water and doesn't cause any ripple effects. There's no repercussions. It's just like a big loud sound. It's like a clank. It's like something falling to the ground. There's no water. It just falls onto a hard surface. Boom. It's just a loud, may cause a lot of attention. It may grab a lot of attention. It may make you look at it. It may change. It may scare you. It may be a big reaction. But when something's not from God, it's just like a one-time movement, a shaking up, an attention grabber. And then it's over. We may panic and react and not allow it to be over, but that's from us. That's our reaction, our emotional impact. But when something's from God, think about that still pond, and you throw one little pebble, and the ripples go all the way out, and they continue. Even if you can't see the ripples anymore, they're still there. The frequency of the wave goes, right? And God's grace is like that. When it's from God, there's always ripple effects of one good movement leads to another good movement, good movement, good movement. And that's what I see with this issue of human freedom. And it's not freedom for freedom's sake. We're not worshiping freedom. We're worshiping God, who wants us to be free in order to pursue a relationship with him. And when the human being is free to pursue a relationship with God, then the grace of that is a ripple effect, and it makes everybody better. It makes society better, community better, the world better, because it's God, and God is good, and everything about God is good, and it leads only to more goodness, where evil is the opposite. It's a large clanging sound that just disturbs and distorts and makes people confused, like the gender ideology issue. It's confusing and disturbing and a large clang. Whereas the restoration of truth in God's word restores peace, and begins to put order back into things. And the ripple effect of grace goes out to the ends of the earth. Like Jesus, I can go and spread the word to the ends of the earth. God's grace goes to the end of the earth. Isn't it amazing how poetic and beautiful and symbolic all this is? Praise the Lord. And remember, it's all from God. We got to be careful. We're not worshiping Trump. We're not saying Trump isn't perfect. No, he's a man put in that position. We're thankful for him and we pray for him. But let's not make this ever about, and he is, in a sense, many sense, a hero right now. And there's nothing wrong with being a hero. As long as we understand that if there's anything good in Trump that he's doing, then it's because God's permitting it and allowing it. It's never about one man. It's never about a group of men. And anybody can be corrupted. They can. Anybody can be corrupted. And I'm not saying he will be corrupted or won't be corrupted, but anybody's capable of being corrupted. Right now, we're thankful. We're thankful and we stay true. We can be corrupted, any of us. But we can't be so pessimistic that we assume that they will be. We pray that they won't. And we do our job to keep ourselves and those around us and those in office by our vote and our voice to keep them in check and in line and not become corrupted. There. Again, ripple effects. One voice outward. And if all these voices are speaking truth together, then it's a beautiful symphony, beautiful orchestra. All right. I'll go on. All right. What do we got next? What do we have next? Defending women, return to in-person work. We talked about Forbes. Oh, should we do it? Yeah, let's do it. We can't move on today. Okay, we cannot move on today without talking about the Elon Musk thing. Okay, we really need to talk about it because the Elon Musk salute issue. I just want to make sure we're filming here. Okay, gotcha. All right, so what I'm going to do is if you're not aware, Elon Musk spoke over the last few days, and he made a salute that people were saying looked like a Nazi salute, a Heil Hitler kind of salute, and we're going to look at it. But what I really want to look at is something specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share an X post from PBS News. PBS, right? Supposed to be respected news agents, not some individual out on the internet. PBS, and we're going to look at it. We're going to look at what Musk said and what Musk did. We're going to look at what PBS said and wrote, and then we're going to compare, and we'll make an assessment. And there's actually two assessments to be made. Did Musk actually make that motion? Did he intend anything by the motion? Third, did PBS report it properly? All right, so here we go. This is a really good one. All right. Because it's not just about the silly moment and them trying to accuse everybody of being a Nazi. It's about how they operate. PBS. All right, I'm sharing. Make sure I'm sharing. Yeah, I'm sharing. Good. All right, here's PBS on X, PBS News at NewsHour. Billionaire Elon Musk gave what appeared to be a fascist salute Monday while making a speech at the post-inauguration celebration for President Donald Trump at Capital One Arena. This is they're quoting Musk. Some elections are important, some are not, but this one really mattered, and I just want to thank you for making it happen. Musk said before, now the close quote, now this is PBS. Musk said before putting his hand on his chest and then raising it in a salute that appeared similar to the Sieg Heil used by, I guess that's how you pronounce it, Sieg Heil, used by Nazis at their victory rallies. We all know the Hitler salute. And then they said, they go back to quoting Musk, quote, "It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured," close quote, Musk said. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. So again, they said that that this is what Elon Musk said. Pay attention, please, because it's detailed, but it's so important because when you see what PBS does here, it's more shocking than them even accusing him, which is ridiculous. He did not make a Hitler sign. He did not. Okay. He may have made a symbol with his hand that looks similar, but a physical gesture that looks similar to what could have completely different meanings. And what they did here is inexcusable. And this is what they quoted. This is Musk. Some elections are important, some are not. But this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen, close quote. Then he makes the symbol, the gesture. And then they continue. That Musk said, it is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. Let's watch the video. Here we go. Okay. Let me back. Okay. Let me put the volume on. And here we go.
You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
All right. Let's go back. Here he goes. He says, I just want to say thank you. Okay. Which is what PBS reported. They said, but this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Then PBS says he makes a salute, and the next thing he says, it is thanks to you for the future, that the future of civilization is assured. That's not what he said. He said those two things, but he said something in between that PBS doesn't put in there. Let's see what he actually says. All right, it's going to start with, and I just want to say thank you. Here we go. All right. Okay. Here we go.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. That's what PBS reported. Then PBS says he makes the signal, the gesture, and then he says the next. Let's see if that's the order that it actually happened. This is the video. Right here we go. Making it happen. Let's see. Next.
Thank you.
Okay, he says thank you twice. He says thank you during making the gesture. The gesture itself resembles it. Okay, the gesture itself, the hand gesture somewhat resembles the Nazi salute thing. Okay, but PBS did not mention that he said thank you. But this is what they really didn't say. They didn't put in the writing right above this post. They didn't put this writing in. This is what he says next. Listen.
My heart goes out to you.
My heart goes out to you. He's grabbing his chest and putting his hand out as if he's taking his heart and throwing it up into the audience. He throws it to the audience in front of him. He turns around. He throws it to the audience, takes his heart from his chest and throws it outward with his hand and says, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to my heart is going out to you. My heart goes out to you. So he says my heart goes out to you after the gesture, but during the gesture, thank you, forward. Thank you, behind me. My heart goes out to you, and he puts his hand back on his chest where the beginning of the gesture began. Clearly, he was motioning that the motion was, I'm putting my heart, thank you, my heart goes out to you, that gesture was him taking his heart in his hand and throwing it out, pushing it out, it goes out to you into the audience. PBS does not mention that. They go directly from thank you for making it happen to he makes the gesture, the Nazi gesture, and goes to it is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. They don't mention thank you, or my heart goes out to you. After my heart goes out to you on the video, he says,
it is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. They left out the words that completely explain the gesture. I did something yesterday. I showed this to my daughter, and it didn't have the words. Okay. And she said, "Whoa, that looks like wow, whoa! I can't believe he did that." It does look like it. Okay, and then I showed PBS, and I showed that the words are out, and I showed, oh wow, it's worse, terrible. Then I showed her the actual video with my heart goes out to you. She immediately understood the adjustment, the reality of what he said, what he was doing, and how she couldn't believe the shock went from I can't believe he did that, to I can't believe PBS News did that. She didn't know it was PBS News. She can't believe the news, whatever the news channel is, because she wasn't aware of it was PBS or not. So the shock was, how could he do that, to how could they do that? And that's what they did. They took it out. Is Musk a weird guy? He's a genius. He's a genius. Is he a little strange? Yes. Wonderfully strange. He's a beautiful weirdo, right? Beautifully wacky, He's a wacky guy. He's a wacky guy. That's gesture. The gesture's strange. It's a strange gesture, but my heart goes out to you. It's clear what he meant. And you know what? We don't even have to go through this, that it's clear. But what we do have to go through is they left it out. And if you want to go over it again, it's right here. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Close quote. Musk said before putting his hand on his chest and then raising it in a salute that appeared to be similar to the hail used by Nazis at their victory rallies. Then they go back to his quote, is thanks to you for the future of civilization is assured, without mentioning thank you, or my heart goes out to you. These are deceptive. That's deceptive. It's nothing but deceptive. It would be impossible to write that and leave those things out. You couldn't be, it couldn't even be an accident. It's absurd. It's dangerous. And there it is. We talked the other day, NPR putting new leadership in, going in the wrong direction. PBS going in the wrong direction. Some people, like Bezos, Washington Post, he wants to go in the right direction. Owner of the LA Times, he wants to go in the right direction. Some reporters at the New York Times want to go in the right direction. The right direction not being supporting conservatives, no. It's not about supporting conservatives or liberals or Democrats or Republicans. It's about journalism. It's about presenting the truth, the facts, the day-to-day historians. Journalists are day-to-day historians. They're writing the first draft of history, right? Journalists today are writing the first draft of history for historians to write into books later. They appear in journals and newspapers years ago. Now it's online. It's day-to-day historians, and that's what we need. We need journalists to report the facts, the truth, and then allow us to make judgments. Remember how I talked about experts? We don't hand our decisions over to experts. We seek out expert opinions from experts on specific topics to put onto our desk to study with the totality of the circumstances in our life for us to make decisions. Part of the experts is the journalist who provides us with the facts to make decisions, that we make decisions. PBS is trying to manipulate you into making a decision, a judgment on this, that Elon Musk is making a Nazi signal, therefore anti-Semitic. And it's not what occurred. They didn't report the facts. They showed the video, but they didn't report the facts. So the combination, like my daughter, when she saw it without the captions, without the words, but then saw the words, said, oh, that's that. PBS, NPR, we will make a list, right? We'll keep a check, a mental check of who to trust. You can't trust them. You can't trust PBS. You can't trust NPR. All right, let's move on. This is good. Having fun today, huh? What do you think? Comments, share, like, all that stuff. We're growing. Subscribers coming up. We're on a mission. All right. What do I have next? I'm going for a while today, but I feel good. Let's keep going. So we got PB. Oh, by the way, you want to see something funny? So let's watch this because, our favorite AOC, let's see what she has to do. Look, watch. You're going to get a kick out of this. This is funny. Let me share. Okay. Look at AOC. Watch this. See, look at AOC. She's giving a talk and look what she's doing. Oh, what does she do with her arm? Oh my, what is she doing? Wow, that looks like, is she giving a Nazi salute? This was by Libs of TikTok posted. Okay. I mean, so there you go. And it's also a reminder. Let me stop sharing. It's a reminder, get her off my screen. That lady is just, it's hard to believe she represents anybody. Gestures, symbols. Remember like the Pete Hegseth? He's got the cross, the Jerusalem cross, and they say it's some kind of, it's crazy. That cross was in the cathedral where Jimmy Carter's funeral was. We can never mistake. There are symbols that are clearly tied to certain things. And then there are variations or things that resemble that have no the context the content and the context is completely not related. And these are just little tricks. Yesterday, what's his name? Chris Murphy, Senator Murphy, right? Grilling communicating or talking to the Trump's nominee for representative at the UN, ambassador to the UN, saying, bringing up the Musk thing and about calling him out, and that it's crazy how they're going to use that. Nobody in good faith could watch that video and see him say, "My heart goes out to you," and say it's still a Nazi symbol without being disingenuous. Yes, you can say it was odd and probably should have avoided that symbol, but that's just a stupid mistake or a silly coincidence or an unfortunate coincidence or whatever. But there's no real connection there. All right, we got to leave this. It's too much. Okay, here we go. And we got AOC. And what else? Oh, I think this is a cute one. All right, let me share it with you. New York governor, I'm just going to read it to you. New Jersey's governor, Murphy, asked Trump to move swiftly on congestion pricing. So Murphy from New Jersey, New York City implemented congestion pricing, which is anywhere below, it's like 60th Street and below, it's $9 just to drive. If you drive in the city, now I'm not talking tolls to get in or tunnels to get into the city. If your car, you bring a car, in addition to the toll, the tunnel, you bring a car onto 60th and below. I think it's 60th or 59th. I think it's 60th and below all the way down south. So pretty much Midtown and Financial Center and Tribeca and Soho and etc. The majority of transactions are taking place. You pay $9 just to be in the city. Congestion. And Murphy, he wants Trump to come to his rescue here, and he wants Trump to help out. So I thought that was a cute coincidence. And you know what I'm going to end with? The last thing, we're keeping an eye on tech investors. So let's look at another tech investor that caught my eye. Let me share this with you. Okay. Because we have a list, right? Let me share this here. And this is Mark Pincus. Okay. Mark Pincus is chairman of Zynga. So Zuckerberg and, of course, Musk and Bezos, who's not a tech guy, but, Andreessen, right? We have a lot of people who are saying, hey, Trump is really the guy we have to go with. And again, we have to be careful of who's just doing it for this reason or that. But Mark Pincus, another guy, he's worth $1.4 billion. He's co-founded Zynga, an online social game maker known for Words with Friends, Mafia Wars, and Farmville. He's a serial entrepreneur who made early investments in Facebook and Twitter. He launched several successful businesses before creating Zynga. What else has he done? Anything here? In 2018, he founded an investment firm, Reinvent Capital, which has put money into SpaceX, Oscar, and Lyft. Okay, so he has an interesting story that he was not a Trump guy. He's a liberal. I don't know if he's a liberal. I'm guessing. Let me look before I go. Okay, I won't guess. I'll confirm. All right. Let me see. Let me pull up this Real Clear article thing. Tech billionaire Pincus red pill moment to learn Trump never really called Nazis very fine people in Charlottesville. So if you're not familiar with this, we'll go over. This is posted by Tim Haynes on Real Clear Politics. I'm going to share it and we'll go over because it's another reminder how people are waking up, moving over, reality setting in, and we'll keep tabs on who's doing it. All right. So tech billionaire Mark Pincus, who I just described to you, looking at that, by the way, his information on his background was all from Forbes. I want to give credit. So here he is. He was a video. I'm going to read. Mark Pincus, a tech billionaire who supported Biden in 2020. So he was a Biden supporter, whether he was a Democrat or a liberal. I think probably safe to say, but I don't have that confirmed. But he supported Biden in 2020, told the All In podcast this week that learning Donald Trump was taken out of context, like the Musk salute, out of context, or certain words edited out in the sequence of events. It's deception. It's purposeful deception. They keep losing people. They lost this Mark Pincus. He's a powerful, influential people. who are supporting their candidates, meaning the NPR and PBS candidates, the Democrats, and they lose them because of this. Maybe they'll lose people because of what they just did with Musk. And they should. How can anybody somebody sit next to me right now, watch the podcast, watch what I just showed you with the Musk thing, ever believe anything PBS ever says? All right. Let's say I'm going to play it. Let me play the video, and then we'll stop it. Here we go. This is him explaining about the Charlottesville, what the Democrats keep saying about it, how it isn't the case, and how it was a moment for him to wake up. Here we go.
Well, it's interesting because Reed and I really started the whole kind of journey into bigger national politics together. We both sat down and had lunch with Biden and wrote big checks a little over a year ago, December of 23. And then, won't bother you, but I had my red pill moment and I went a very different direction, which started off just questioning the Democrats.
Hold on. Can you actually just double click into that? What was your red pill moment? Was there one specific thing or was it more of a trickle of things?
All right, hold on. So he says that just a year, 2023, cutting big checks to Biden. And then he has his red pill moment, right? He wakes up. And I don't know who the interviewer is here. It's from All In Podcast. It's a good podcast, by the way. I'm not sure of this gentleman's name that's asking the question, but he stops him and says, hey, can you give us some background on that? Was it one moment or was it, here we go.
Your red pill moment. Was there one specific thing or was it more of a trickle of things?
It was both, right? It's like the wall starts crumbling and then it comes down all at once. So for me, it really started early in 23. I started reading Pirate Wires and Mike Solana, and I thought he was a little crazy at first because he would write these articles. One he wrote was about how the Ukrainian soldiers had swastikas on their helmets, and the New York Times photographers would ask them to take the swastikas off for photos. And I said, that can't be right. That can't be true. And then 4 months later, it was in the New York Times, buried in the middle of the paper. And I kept seeing stories like that he would be early on. And so I just started feeling uncomfortable and queasy about what was going on with mainstream media. And then in May.
All right. So here we go. So he said, like the wall starts crumbling, then it comes down all at once. So he's pointing out, right? There it is. That an alternative media was pointing things out, and he's maybe this guy's crazy, but then he sees it in the New York Times, buried in the middle of the paper. So that's another thing these mainstream or newspapers of record do. Sometimes they have to admit, because they have to have it documented that they reported it, because they're going to lose all credibility. So they bury it. They bury it in the middle of the paper. I mean, do we have to know how they work? This PBS thing is. I bet you that's going to get changed on X, that they're not going to leave it up like that, because that's damning to PBS. All right, here we go.
May of last year of 24, I read some article that talked about Trump's speech in Charlottesville, and this has been well covered, but where he said there was good people on both sides, and the article said it was completely, propaganda and not accurately reflecting what he said, that he denounced the Nazis a bunch of times in his speech. And so then I went and watched that video, and that was my red pill moment. I think it was for a lot of people, because it wasn't just the media spinning it or politicians spinning it. That was like one of the pillars of why you were supposed to hate Trump, was that speech. And then you see Biden say that's why he had to run a second time. And you see Obama you even see Biden bring it up again in the beginning of the DNC. And it's one of their pillars, and they clearly know that they're misrepresenting things. So for me, that was beyond uncomfortable. I was just like, okay, now I got to go back to first principles and look at the primary data and listen only to original speeches by people. And I just realized I couldn't trust mainstream media. So I started questioning the Democrats. As soon as I started questioning the Democrats, I started getting a lot of shame and anger and hatred. Oh, the other thing that happened that was part of this journey is that
right? So the Charlottesville thing where they say Trump was praising the Nazis and it's been completely debunked that he criticized them. It wasn't accurate, okay? And Biden used that. Remember when Biden ran for president in 2020, he said because of Charlottesville, he had to get back into politics. He had to help the country, save the soul. Remember, save the soul of the nation. And he brought it up again at the beginning of this election at the convention. And that was just and like, as he's saying, it's not just the media, it's the Democrats themselves going on and on. And he said, so watching the actual footage, he knows it was not true. And that the fact that the Democrats kept using it made him start to, well, what other choice do you have? If you have any objectivity, if you care anything about integrity, somebody, something's not true, and a person or a group of people continue to say a lie that they know. The Democrats know it's not accurate. It's impossible for them not to know it's accurate. He watches the actual footage, says it's not accurate, and then continues to listen to these people say it's accurate, the same people he's cutting checks to. So now, right, I have to go to the source. I have to go to the actual video, which is what we're doing here. We're watching the video, right, and watching him talk. Let's watch Trump speak. Yeah, we can read articles and commentary, of course, but that's why we have to be very careful of who we're reading and where we're reading it, what sources. PBS, can't trust them. Can't trust them. NPR, can't trust them. Okay, it doesn't mean it's Epic and Unheard, these magazines, these publications, the tablet we've been pointing out lately. Yeah, they're showing credibility. They're showing integrity. All right. And I think we have to be open to like the LA Times maybe getting reformed and the Washington Post and maybe even the New York Times. We know, like, for example, Miranda, right, at New York Post. All right. There are good people out there. All right. I don't want to get lost. But and these are extremely bright, powerful, wealthy, tech savvy, obviously, who were going for it. And then he watches the video himself. All right. And this is another part. Go.
Chief of staff parted ways with me after 9 years in April of last year. And he was the main person protecting me from myself on Twitter. And he was the one who would say, stay in your lane. Nobody wants to hear what you think about politics or San Francisco or anything other than, your area of products and investing. And with him gone, I just started tweeting whatever I felt and thought. And sometimes I got it wrong or it was a little too emotional. But first of all, it was really fun. And then second of all, I found I got connected to this whole new audience of people who are these kind of techno optimists. I think you guys probably talked about it. And that just brought me down this path that eventually I came out 2 days before the election publicly for Trump. And it was only because that's when I completely got there. And I was trying to just be completely honest and authentic with myself and on Twitter at the same time. And my dog.
All right. This is really fascinating, right? So he has a chief of staff, right? A guy in his personal assistant, helping him manage his business dealings, who tells him to stay in his lane and don't get involved in politics. And he leaves. He begins to tweet. And right. And that was so beautiful. And I got some things wrong, and I had a lot of fun. It's fun expressing yourself. And we have to be open. Like Lex Fridman the other day, he said something. I don't even know what he did, but he put it on X that he made a mistake and that he hopes to learn from it, whatever. So the point is, like, we're going to make mistakes. We just have to admit them. All we have to do is admit them, accept correction, and move forward. So, and it's fun. So you see, like, this is what's exciting, right? You see how he got it. You can see the body language. He as powerful as these people are and as wealthy, we think of them as distant. They're human beings, just like Vance and just like Rubio. Watching them, they're just people. Because they're in these lofty positions by wealth or election or whatever it may be. And Zuckerberg doing the martial art. He's just a guy who wants to be accepted by the other guys, right? And that's what's happening. And I think what's happening is the social media world's really allowing people to express themselves. And you can be wrong. And you can correct. And that's all you have to do. Chris Cuomo, just a side note about Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo's biggest problem is that he wouldn't admit that he was wrong. He still won't. He still won't take full responsibility. He tries to defend himself, whereas people would just be willing to accept it. If he just said, I was completely wrong and I messed it up and I'm going to, you know what, people just move on. But when you dig deep and you won't admit it, it's when it just gets uglier and uglier. And it gets, Cuomo is like, really, he's just so unattractive. He's such an unattractive speaker now because he can see this, like this anger. And he's so, anyway, I don't get lost in Chris Cuomo. But it's a good contrast to these tech optimists. What a great tech optimist, Andreessens, right? Tech optimist, seeing the world. Yes, and the dangers of AI. Yes, and what can happen? Open AI and the Suture guy being his death. You know, whether it was suicide or was there foul play, and you know, and Musk and Altman and these conflicts, but communication is always going to be the key, and we need to speak. And sometimes we speak something and we don't think it's important. It ends up being really important. Sometimes we say something with such certainty and we end up wrong. Long as we are willing to admit it, correct it, change our tune, and move forward, people get that. People get that we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And it's different being a flip-flopper for convenience or to make a deal. That's being false or a hypocrite. But evolving and learning, that's what it's all about. That's what AI does. AI is learning from itself, right? Learning from the users, that's what we do. Growth mindset, flow. All right, let's see what it says at the end here. Let me go back 2 seconds. I like this interview.
On Twitter at the same time, and my daughters turned to me that Sunday and they said, you're going to vote for Trump. We know it. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. And they said, well, then you have to go say it on Twitter. And my daughters were like really in this with me. Yeah. So anyway, and then it was on the front page of the New York.
Isn't that cool? So he's convinced he's going to vote for Trump. His daughters know, and his daughters are the one who encourage him. There it is, right? This younger generation, that's the bright part. You know, the scary part is young generation just staring at screens. It drives you crazy, right? But there's also this openness of communication and speak, be who you are. If you're going to vote for Trump, you have to tell people, then tell people. And he does 2 days before the election.
Post on the day of the election that I was not that I'm such news, but maybe it just was their news peg that I was coming out for Trump. And I'll get back to Reed question, but what I love about my New York Times, about my New York friends is that they did not give a They were all pro Kamala and they texted me and they're just like, oh, that's kind of funny. But it's one thing I kind of love about New York. They didn't care. All
right. How you like that, huh? And then he ends with his friends didn't really care. Our fears usually are much, the shadow of the bug is much more, the big giant shadow of the little bug is much more frightening than the actual bug, right? Our fears are what people will say about us or think about us. I have this fear. I to this day, you know, I walk around and sometimes talking to someone and I know they're very liberal or whatever. And I'm like, well, if they find out about my podcast, I wonder what they're going to think. It is what it is. You know what? Most of them have found out. And no, it doesn't change. In fact, I think maybe they move closer to me because you know why? At the end of the day, I'm just being me. I'm just being honest. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's what I think. And you know what? We also share something. We find also common ground. They may be liberal and I may be constitutionally conservative and have certain views in terms of religion and spiritual life. But as a father and a husband and a friend, they're fathers and husbands and friends. And then we share that. And that brings us close. Like it's like Trump having the 3-hour dinner with Bill Gates and having the 3-hour dinner with Zuckerberg. If you sit and talk, you will find the humanity in each other. And that's the common ground. That's the real bridge. The bridge isn't just the deal, the transactional bridge. It's the human bridge. It's I'm a human, you're a human, we mess up. You love your wife, I love my wife. You're worried about your children. Oh, your mother's sick. Oh, too. It's that. It's that stuff that unites us. It's the common struggle of humanity and the joys. You know, in the Bible, right? Weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice. You know, sharing it, empathy, life. All right, this has been good. I like it. I like the communication. I love doing this. Please continue to send me emails, send me topic ideas, send me thoughts. articles. Please subscribe and comment and like and share and all that stuff too. Okay. I love you guys. Been really, really fun. I'm going to wrap it up. We're almost at 2 hours. And I think you probably had enough of Howie. All right. Life beckons. Let's go on. Please do me a favor, though. Be a positive force in your neighborhood today. Be a positive force in your family. Speak the truth. And if you make a mistake, don't get stuck on it. Accept the correction, grow from it, and keep moving forward. Amen. Amen. Take care.